Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I'm going to share a technique with you that is called making a masterboard. Now, if you have been stamping for a long time, you know what I'm talking about. But if you've recently gotten to stamping, you have no idea what I'm talking about. A masterboard is basically kind of like a pattern paper. You'd make a decorated piece of cardstock, and then you could cut it up to use on different cards, such as One Sheet Wonders, another blast from the past. But I was thinking with the popularity, actually I started off by doing this art journal page here, and what I wrote on it was, "What are you waiting for?" I saw that on Pinterest. It was kind of like done on a sign. It was just like so cool. I'm like, yeah, what are you waiting for? What's keeping you from doing what you want to do? I like that. So I made this journal page, but then I realized, well, I don't need to remake this journal page. I thought, well, why don't I do it as a card? So then I was playing on it with a card, and then I didn't want to really do the collaging on top. So I thought, how about I show the folks how to make a masterboard, and that's what we're going to do today. And there you have two different ways you can use this technique when you're done. Alright, so back in the days of old day, the stamping days of old day, we couldn't go to the scrapbook store and buy paper because there weren't any scrapbook stores. We had to make our own pattern paper, which was totally awesome and super duper fun, and I totally think we ought to do more of that. So what we would use would be, of course, our rubber stamps. And rubber stamps cost a fortune back then. They're probably, accounting for our income and inflation, I bet they were more expensive then than they are now. So to begin, what you're going to do is mist your stamp with water. Just got a regular old, 99-cent spray bottle there. And then I'm using watercolor crayons, and this is another reason I wanted to do this, because I had to do a supply order, and I saw these Lyra watercolor crayons, and they were very inexpensive. I love the Caran d'Ache ones, but I'd always wondered about these Lyras to see if I could recommend them as a cheap, high quality alternative, maybe somewhere between like the Caran d'Ache and the like the Reeves brand, and they're actually pretty good, so I'm pretty pleased with that. And what I'm doing is just coloring on the rubber with this, and let's see, maybe a little bit of this teal, like this teal color, get some of that on there. Alright, it's feeling a little dry, so what I'm going to do is give it another spritz, but actually what I'm doing, I'll do it over here on the corner here so you can see it. I'm spraying in the air, then I'm just kind of putting my rubber stamp through. I don't want to get the camera wet, so hopefully that I got enough on there. And then I'm just going to stamp this a couple times, so your first impression's kind of juicy. And your second impression, you want to press a little harder, it will be a little more detailed, and then you may need another spritz of water. Just kind of, if you do it at like a 2 feet distance, you'll get just about the right amount of spritz. There, and there, your third impression. I kind of like the third impression the best, but you can see you get this very cool watercolory look. Perfect for a background. So then I wanted to go in and grab some of these other sets. These stamps are all from the bug set from Lost Coast Designs, and I will put a link below the video so you can check them out. It's a really versatile, cool set. I'm going to spray my butterfly stamp here. Now if it looks like it's really wet, what I'll do is I'll kind of rub my fingers over it. You can do this with any water-soluble media. You can do it with chalk pastels. Really, just use what you have, but if you are looking for a watercolor crayon that's not as expensive as a Caran d'Ache, but pretty good quality, these layers are very good. The sticks are a little bit bigger, so you do get more for your money. They are cheaper, and they're a little more opaque than the Reeves, but they are they're not quite as opaque as the Caran d'Ache. But I only have a set of 24. Maybe you get more of the opaque colors in the set of 48. I think 48's as big as they come. I don't think I'm going to get much. I could spray it again and try it, but I really don't think I'm going to get much more off of that. But let's just give it a whirl. I can see it's pretty clean. Oh, to clean these when you're done, you'll want to use like a toothbrush and just clean water, and that will do the trick. There, so we got some cool, look at that. Look how many 6 times that I stamped that without re-inking. That's pretty cool. I might even get another one right down there. Okay, and I also have this bee, and I'm going to use a teal that I used for the dragonfly, but I'm also going to introduce some yellow and green. So I try to at least have one color that I've used before, so it doesn't get, so it doesn't, seem discordant with my other colors. And if your crayons start to look like this, don't worry, because you can just wet them and wipe them, or just scribble them off on a clean piece of paper. It's not a big deal, so please don't freak out if your things get a little dirty. Now what in the heck, there it is. Like, I'm losing stuff. I tried this video earlier. It didn't work out so well. I was missing a glue stick, and my husband came downstairs, and he was being very quiet, but he was about to crack me up because he just cracks me up. So now, second time's a charm. Well, hopefully second time's a charm. Maybe it'll be third time by the time it actually gets done. Who knows? All right, and then I have this little itty bitty one, and this is another thing about scale and design. Okay, so you've probably heard of the decorating term gallon quart pint. So like our dragonflies would be the gallon, they're our biggest things. The quart would be our our bees and our butterflies, and then our pint would be our this little moth here. So try to keep everything balanced when you're working. That's all I'm saying. You don't want everything huge. You want everything in balance. Make a nice rhythm around the paper with the different things we're putting in here. The different shapes. Just kind of try to keep them a little bit random, like a pattern. Think of like your favorite fabric or pattern paper, and look at that. So you don't have to worry if anything is a little off, because it's going to be fine. I think I'll maybe do a few that are a little more blue. Now that's really dry, so let me just give that a little spritz and try a few of those. Just kind of looks like a little fairy, kind of like that. Okay. So I think that looks pretty cool, and you could totally leave it like this if you want, but I think I would like to add a little bit more, since you guys are watching, you want a little more bang for your buck. I think your buck, well, the videos are free, but you know what I mean. So I'm putting down one of my hot glue stencils, which awesome, because they're free to make, and I'm going to give it a couple little spritzes of little inks here. These little inks are distress inks that I've added with water, and I have you put them in little bottles. These little mister bottles are from Oriental Trading, so they're quite a bit cheaper than the mini misters from Tim Holtz. I'll put a link to those too. They do sell out fast when they get them in, so if they're sold out, I'm sorry, that happens. It seems like whenever I mention them, they sell out like the next day. Not to brag or anything, I just think that they're totally cool, and when people see them, they just have to have them. So they've got that cool texture. Now if you don't like that, you don't have to do it, but you can see that I've done it here, and if you don't like it, then don't do it. I think I'll just kind of blot that a little bit to dry it. And then I want to add some collage. And what I did here, I took some deli paper, and I had a set of sentiments that were from Lost Coast Design, and I hadn't cut them apart yet. And then I thought, I just wanted a text background, so I just inked up the sentiments and stamped it all over this deli paper, crinkled it, and then I rubbed it with an ink pad. That way you really couldn't tell that these were just a bunch of sentiments or a bunch of quotes. It doesn't really, what in heck is that? Oh, kids upstairs with wet sneakers squeaking on the floor. I was like, holy moly, that's a weird noise on your video. I don't know if you could hear that, but if you could, the little explanation, it sounds like there's like, I don't know, ghosts or something creepy. I don't know. All right, so, things look good in odd numbers if it's under 5, so I'll just put 3 torn strips there. And I'm going to use a little glue stick. These are just your back to school glue sticks. You don't have to have anything fancy. Deli paper is so light. It's almost like gluing tissue paper down. It's like a very resilient tissue paper. And I get asked what it is, because maybe in your country you call it something different. It's also called grease-proof paper or dry waxed paper. And it's like, if you go to the bakery, it's called deli paper, but when I get sandwiches from the deli, they're usually in a much thicker paper, like a butcher's paper. This is more like what you would get if you were at the bakery and you're buying like a pastry or a bagel or a donut, and you get there's a little tissue papers that you can pick out your bagel with. It's like those little tissue papers, so you could probably just snag a couple of those. I was at the Circle K today, and my daughter got a little pastry. I was getting my Jamaican Me Crazy coffee, because did you know Circle K has Jamaican Me Crazy? I was stunned. I was like, oh my gosh, I never expect to find a decent cup of coffee in a convenience store. I don't know why. I feel like a snob now. All right, so now we've got our little collage there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of get a little bit of that on there. You could use your watercolor crayons, but the distress ink is really juicy, so I know I can put some of that on there, and it's going to stay can't talk. It's going to stay wet long enough that I can go in there and finger paint it around here a little bit. Again, kind of obscuring what I'm totally finger painting. Look at that. Obscuring some of these quotes, because actually some of them are a little okay, you get Lost Coast Designs is awesome. They have a set of quotes, and they're not for all audiences. There's no swearing in there, I don't think. Okay, there is some swearing in there, so I kind of want to, make it a little bit harder to read, but they were funny. And so, but and I like to make my supplies as versatile as I can, so that's another way I can make that a little bit more versatile, by just kind of obscuring those some of those words a little bit. But you know, I just really like the mix up of fonts and how it looked there. Alright, so now you have these little bits that stick out on the edge of your masterboard, and I kind of create, this is how I create. I kind of like to race through and rush when I'm doing this stuff because I can't wait to see what happens next. If you don't like that pace, you can take your time. It's fun. You know, you're not going to save any money over buying, well, you know, you probably will because you already have these supplies, but the reason why we do this is because it's fun and nobody else is going to have the exact same background paper that you do. That's kind of the point of doing these. I want to make a nice kind of like rougey border. So what I'm going to do here, now that I've trimmed that, is take my watercolor crayon. And the nice thing about this is if you don't have a lot of ink pads, if you have a little box of watercolors, or you have some watercolor crayons, or some pastels, you can do this, you know, with just one little box or set of colors. You don't have to, you know, have 30 ink pads, because I think that's the hardest thing when you get going in stamping is collecting the ink pads. And they're kind of not as fun because you want to spend your money on the stamps because that's the fun part. And, you know, the ink pads cost money. You know, it doesn't seem like you're getting, you know, as much value as you do from your stamps. I'm just using just a brush. You use your finger or a brush just to spread that around a little bit. You don't have to do this. And actually, when you cut up your board, your masterboard here, you can, you know, you can ink the edges. You might want to go around each edge like that. That would be kind of cool looking. Now, some people would photocopy their masterboards, and that's kind of like one of those gray areas where it's like, yeah, you've spent so much time, you might not want to cut into the original because you spent so much time on it. Some companies are okay with you doing that, and some aren't because that's mechanical reproduction. But I bet if you just give them pop them an email, say, listen, I spent so much time on this, I just want to photocopy it for my own use, they're generally going to be okay with that. They generally won't be okay with you photocopying it and putting it on your website and sharing it with people, or you know, they're definitely not okay with selling it unless you like obtain some, you know, commercial use licenses. But if you're just like making cards, they're generally okay with that. So, but you know, it's better to ask, that way you don't end up getting yourself in trouble or stepping on anybody's toes. But just, you know, I just wanted to say that because I know some people, you know, that's kind of one of the things that a lot of people did back in the day is, you know, you'd spend a lot of time on this and you'd go to the copy shop and you'd make copies, but that was also before people could, like, you know, share things so freely on the internet. I just have this acrylic ink that I am just speckling on there, and I think I want to put a little bit of that on the edges too, because it's kind of fun. And I got an interesting story here. I'm full of interesting stories, aren't I? This ink was actually dry in the pot. It's a little thing of acrylic calligraphy ink, and it's silver. And it was so pretty, and I was bummed. But then I thought, well, before I toss this, I'm going to see if I can revive it. And I just put some denatured alcohol in here because I knew it was just way too far gone to try. I just went over a swear word. To try water. So I just put some denatured alcohol in there and put the cap on, give it a shake, and it's good as new. So there's a little trick if you have some acrylic ink that is hardened up on you. Now you can stamp some more on top of this if you feel like you've lost too much of your definition. Go right ahead. I'll just show you what that looks like just in case you're curious. Cap this up because it will dry out, and you don't have to go through that process again. But let's maybe I'll do the butterfly because I'm afraid the dragonfly might just kind of stick out like a sore thumb. So let's do the butterfly, but let's do some blues. Again, we just go in with our spraying. Sorry about the water pump. I'll speak loudly and I'll get on with it. And I'm going to do maybe this blue and maybe some purple. I was kind of looking and seeing what I felt like it needed a little bit more of. A little bit of that teal. I do like that teal color. It's awfully pretty. Okay, and then I can just throw on a couple little butterflies. You know, or you can use a metallic ink and that would be really pretty, but that's basically it. That's how you create a masterboard that you can cut up and use on different cards or use it in your art journal like I did here. You know, just have fun with it. It's a fun technique, and you can make your own background paper. Use it on your scrapbooks too. There's no reason scrapbookers and stampers can't share the same technique, share the same supplies, and get along and all really enrich each other's crafting and community. Thank you so much for watching. Links below to the things that I used, and as always, thumbs up, subscribe, and happy crafting!